Hey guys, tonight we are traveling back in time, not to a battlefield or a king's court, but to a place far more intimate and, in its own way, far more beautiful. We're stepping into the inner courtyard of a wealthy family in Imperial China. Imagine a world of silk robes, delicate porcelain, and whispered poetry. It all sounds rather serene, doesn't it? Well, don't get too comfortable. In this world of profound beauty, the pursuit of it could be so demanding that, frankly, you'd be lucky to walk away from it, literally. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Then while you're at it, let me know in the comments what city you're listening from and what time it is for you. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are 7 years old. The world, for you, is the polished, dark wood of the corridor floors, cool against the soles of your bare feet. It's the scent of blooming orchids mingling with the damp, earthy smell of moss growing on the ancient stones of the courtyard well. Your home is a labyrinth of connected pavilions, moon gates, and hidden gardens, a universe unto itself. This is the inner quarter, the domain of women. Your father, your uncles, your older brothers, they exist in a separate world. The outer quarter, a place of business, politics, and freedom that you only glimpse in passing. Here, in your world, life is measured by the slow, deliberate passage of the sun across the tiled roofs in the rhythm of 1,000 tiny, unspoken rules. You spend your days with your female cousins, chasing dragonflies near the lotus pond. Your laughter is a bright, sharp sound in the otherwise muted atmosphere. But even in your play, you feel the weight of observation. Your mother, your aunts, the senior maids they watch. They don't always speak, but their gazes are heavy with meaning. They move with a strange, delicate way, their steps impossibly small, their bodies seeming to float just above the ground. They are like beautiful, fragile porcelain dolls, arranged perfectly for display. You admire them, of course. You are taught that their grace is the pinnacle of feminine achievement. Their silence is poise. Their immobility is dignity. Sometimes, when the air is still, you can hear whispers carried on the breeze from the main hall where the women gather. The whispers aren't about harvests or politics, they're about a marriage proposal for a cousin in a neighboring province. The discussion isn't about her wit or her kindness, but about the flawlessness of her skin, the arch of her brow, and, most importantly, the rumored size of her feet, barely 3 inches. One aunt says, her voice a mixture of awe and envy, a true golden lily. The other women sigh in admiration. You don't fully understand what a golden lily is, but you understand it's the most important thing a girl can possess. It's a currency more valuable than gold, a poem more beautiful than any scroll in your father's study. In the quiet moments of the afternoon, while hiding behind a large ornamental rock, you overhear two maids talking. They speak of the origins of this obsession. One tells the story of an ancient empress, so beloved by the emperor that he built her a stage of golden lotus flowers, where she would dance with her feet bound in silk. Her every step was said to be a thing of mesmerizing beauty. The other maid scoffs, whispering that the practice is much older and far less romantic. Historians, centuries from your time, will have this same debate. They'll argue whether this tradition began as an expression of elite aestheticism, a dancer strict to achieve a unique, swaying gait, or if it had a more pragmatic, controlling origin. For you, listening from behind the rock, it's just a story, a piece of folklore that hangs in the air like the scent of incense. But the story feels different. It carries a hint of something sharp, something that doesn't fit with the soft, silken, gentle smiles of your world. As the sun begins to set, casting long, deep shadows across the courtyard, you look down at your own feet, strong, nimble, and free. They can run, they can jump, they can climb. You have no idea that their days of freedom are numbered. The soft, quiet world of the inner courtyard is about to reveal its teeth. The unease you felt behind the rock doesn't just fade with the daylight. It follows you. It settles in the quiet corners of your mind as you sit with the other women in the main pavilion. The air thick with the scent of jasmine tea and embroidery silk. The carefree energy of the afternoon is gone, replaced by a prescribed tranquility. You're learning to be quiet, to be still. Your hands, still clumsy, are tasked with sorting colored threads. A simple chore to keep you occupied while the real work of being a woman unfolds around you. And in the stillness, you begin to listen, really listen. The conversations are a constant, gentle murmur, like a river flowing around you, but you're starting to understand its currents. The women are discussing the potential bride for your eldest cousin, a girl you've never met from a family 2 days' journey away. A matchmaker has just visited, bringing a portrait and a glowing report. But your aunts are skeptical. They are the true judges, the guardians of the family S standards. Her face is pleasing. Your third aunt concedes, peering at the scroll painting. The artist gave her a high forehead and brows like distant hills. Very fashionable. She pauses, taking a delicate sip of her tea. But a painting can hide many flaws. Your mother, who rarely speaks in these gatherings, adds softly, the matchmaker claims her skin is like first snow. Another aunt lets out a small, unconvinced sound. First snow can have impurities. Is it like polished jade? Is it flawless? My cousin's daughter had a tiny mole by her ear, and it nearly ruined her prospects. The women nod in solemn agreement. A blemish, a freckle, a scar. These are not just imperfections, they are character flaws, signs of a life lived carelessly, perhaps even outdoors. You instinctively touch your own cheek, where a mosquito bite from yesterday is still a tiny red mark. A small wave of shame, unfamiliar and unwelcome, washes over you. The talk then turns to her demeanor. They say she is accomplished in the zither. One woman offers that your great aunt, the matriarch whose word is final, dismisses this with a wave of her hand. Any girl can be taught to pluck strings, but does she have grace? Does she move as if she has no bones? Does she glide? Or does she walk the way she says? The word walk makes it sound coarse, almost vulgar, like something only a peasant would do. You watch as she rises to refill her cup. She doesn't walk, she sways. Her body is single, fluid-lined, her tiny, hidden feet taking minuscule steps that are completely silent on the wooden floor. You look at your mother, at your aunts. They all move this way. It's a silent, choreographed dance you've seen your whole life, but never truly understood. Then comes the most peculiar criticism. The matchmaker, in an attempt to portray the girl as cheerful, had mentioned her delightful laugh. This, it turns out, was a grave mistake. Delightful, your third aunt scoffs, placing her cup down with a sharp click. The messenger's boy told our cook that she laughs with her mouth open. He said you could see her teeth. A collective, scandalized silence fills the room. It's a shocking revelation. A proper lady, you are beginning to understand, does not laugh. She might smile, a small, controlled curve of the lips, her eyes demurely lowered. To laugh openly, to show joy with abandon, is to be unrefined. It's a complete lack of self-control. This is a lesser known, but critical, piece of the puzzle. Beauty isn't just about appearance. It's about the suppression of every natural impulse. In this moment, you feel a profound shift in your understanding of the world. The rules are not just about being pretty. They are about being contained. Centuries from now, scholars will debate the precise motive behind this intricate system of beauty. Some will argue it was primarily an aesthetic pursuit, driven by poetic ideals in the male gaze, a culture simply refining its vision of the perfect woman. But others will contend it was something far more deliberate, a mechanism of Confucian social control. A woman who cannot walk freely, who cannot express joy, who must spend hours each day cultivating a fragile, artificial appearance, is a woman who is physically and psychologically confined to the domestic sphere. She is, by design, dependent and submissive. You, of course, don't have the words for patriarchal structures or social engineering. You just know that a wall is being built around you, and it's made of whispers, judgments, and impossible standards. As you gather the last of the silk threads, your mind drifts back to the stories of goddesses and empresses. They seemed so powerful, but now you wonder if they, too, were forbidden to laugh. The lessons don't stop when the women's gathering disperses. They seep into every part of your day, as subtle and persistent as the mist that sometimes shrouds the garden in the morning. Your education has begun, but it doesn't involve scrolls of classic literature or the complex history of the dynasty. Not yet. Anyway, your lessons are in observation, in mimicry, and in the silent absorption of expectations. One afternoon, your mother calls you to her private chambers. This is a rare treat. Her room smells different from the rest of the house, a mix of sandalwood from her clothing chests and a faint, sweet, medicinal scent you can't quite place. The air is still and cool. She is sitting before her dressing table, a magnificent piece of dark, lacquered wood inlaid with mother of pearl. On it sits an array of porcelain pots, silver tools, and silk-lined boxes. It's an arsenal of beauty, and you look on with wide-eyed fascination. She is preparing to attend a banquet. You watch, mesmerized, as she opens a small, ornate box. Inside, resting on a bed of crimson silk, is a pair of shoes, but they are not like any shoes you have ever seen. They are impossibly small, no longer than your mother's hand. They are exquisitely embroidered with a phoenix motif in threads of golden brilliant blue. They are shaped like a crescent moon, a delicate, curved object that seems more like a sculpture than footwear. You know, instinctively, that these are the famous golden lilies you've heard so much about. They are beautiful, breathtakingly so. Come here, your mother says softly. You approach, and she gestures for you to sit on a small stool beside her. She picks up one of the tiny shoes. It fits perfectly in her palm. This, she says, her voice quiet and serious, is a woman's honor. It is her virtue. It is her future. She turns it over, and you see the stiff, embroidered sole. There is a small wooden heel in the center, not at the back. You can't imagine how anyone could possibly balance on it. A girl with big, clumsy feet is like a field that has not been plowed. She continues, her gaze distant. She is coarse. She is common. No respectable family would want her. She would bring shame to us all. Her words aren't cruel. They are stated as simple, immutable facts, like saying the sun rises in the east. This is the core belief. The central pillar of your world, a woman's worth, is inversely proportional to the size of her feet. This is the mainstream historical knowledge. We all have the idea that small feet were a prerequisite for a good marriage and social standing. But your mother is about to show you something more. She directs your gaze to her needlework basket, a familiar object you've seen 100 times. But today, you see it with new eyes. Tucked beside the spools of silk thread and silver thimbles is another pair of tiny shoes. These are not for a special occasion. They are plain, made of simple cotton, and slightly worn. But what startles you is their size. They are even smaller than the embroidered ones. So small you think they must be for a doll. Your mother sees you looking. Those were mine, she says, for my first year. A chill runs through you. A doll's shoe. For a living girl, this is the cold, hard reality that often gets lost in the poetry of the golden lily. The process starts young, on feet not much bigger than yours. The goal is to stunt their growth permanently. This isn't just about shaping the foot, it's about arresting its very existence. You look from the tiny cotton shoe to your own feet, splayed out on the cool floor. They seem enormous, ungainly. For the first time in your life, you feel ashamed of them. You curl your toes under, trying to make them smaller. Your mother notices the gesture. A flicker Of something pity resignation crosses her face before being replaced by her usual serene mask. She says nothing more about the shoes. Instead, she tells you to be a good girl and run along. But as you leave her room, the image of that tiny, plain shoe is burned into your mind. It's no longer an abstract concept from the whispers of your aunts. It's a tangible object, a promise, or a threat. The historians of the future will debate the exact origins of this practice, with some pointing to the Tang Dynasty court and others suggesting it became widespread much later. In the Song Dynasty, there is no single, universally accepted starting point. But for you, its origin doesn't matter. You've just seen its conclusion, resting on a bed of silk, and you've seen its beginning, tucked away in a sewing basket. You now understand that your feet, which have carried you so freely through the gardens and corridors of your home, are about to become a project. Your childhood is officially over. The days that follow are filled with a quiet, creeping dread. The air itself seems to have changed, growing thicker with unspoken intentions. Your mother's gaze now lingers on you with a new kind of intensity, a mixture of clinical assessment and a strange, deep sorrow. Your aunts smile at you, but their eyes drift down to your feet. Even the maids seem to treat you differently, with a kind of gentle, preparatory pity. You are no longer just a child in their eyes, you are a girl on the cusp of her most important transformation. The whispers are no longer about distant cousins, they are about you. Soon, you hear your third aunt murmur to your mother over tea. We cannot wait much longer. Her arches are already starting to set. You don't know what an arch is, but the way she says it makes it sound like a fatal flaw that must be corrected immediately. Then, one morning, the family astrologer arrives. He is an old man with a long, wispy beard and eyes that seem to see things that aren't there. He is not here to discuss business or politics. He is here for you. He consults his charts, ancient scrolls filled with complex diagrams of stars and celestial bodies. He burns incense and mumbles incantations, filling the room with a smoky, mystical haze. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, he proclaims the date. A week from now, the most auspicious day of the month for a difficult but necessary undertaking. A day when the heavens are aligned to favor success and minimize misfortune. An auspicious day. A good day. The irony is lost on everyone but you. It feels like the opposite of a good day. It feels like a death sentence for the life you know. The house springs into a quiet, purposeful flurry of activity. Special herbs are purchased from the apothecary, things meant to soften tissues and prevent infection. Basins are scrubbed. Clean bandages are torn from long bolts of white cotton and dyed black, and a small, secluded room at the back of the women's quarters is prepared. It's a room you've rarely entered, small and dim, with only one high window. It is to be your cocoon, or your prison. Your older female cousins, whose alt transformations are long complete, try to offer you comfort, but their words are empty. It is not so bad. One says, her face a pale, placid mask. You cry for a while, and then you forget, but you see the way she winces when she has to stand for too long, the way she leans heavily on her maid for support. Another cousin tells you, think of the beautiful shoes you will get to wear. Everyone will praise you, but her praise sounds hollow, a lesson learned and repeated without conviction. You retreat into yourself. The gardens that were once your playground now feel like a foreign country you are about to be exiled from. You run your hands over the rough bark of the plum tree, trying to memorize the feeling. You press your bare feet into the cool mud by the edge of the lotus pond one last time, feeling the squish of earth between your toes. These simple, childish pleasures are about to become impossible luxuries. Each step you take feels precious, the final, fleeting moment of freedom. The night before the auspicious day, you can't sleep. You lie on your bed, listening to the sounds of the house settling down, the call of a night bird, the distant chime of a watchman's bell. Your mother comes to sit by your bedside. She doesn't speak for a long time. She simply strokes your hair, Her hand is cool and her touch is gentle, but it brings you no comfort. In the dim moonlight filtering through the window, you can see the deep sadness in her eyes. She knows. She lived it. And now, she must inflict it upon you. It is her duty as a mother, her responsibility to secure your future. To fail in this would be to fail you in the most profound way imaginable in your world. This is a point historians often struggle to convey the complex role of mothers in this tradition. It wasn't always an act of cruelty, but often one of perceived necessity, and even love a mother's desperate attempt to ensure her daughter's survival and success in a deeply restricted society. There's a debate about whether they were victims or perpetrators of the system. The truth, as is often the case, is that they were both. As your mother looks at you, you see the conflict warring in her expression. She is the enforcer of a tradition that once broke her. She leans down and whispers, "Be brave, my daughter. It is the only way." But her voice trembles. When she leaves, the scent of sandalwood and sorrow lingers in the room. You pull the blanket over your head and finally let yourself cry. Not loud, gulping sobs, but silent, hot tears that soak into your pillow, mourning the girl you will cease to be tomorrow. The auspicious day dawns, not with thunder and lightning, but with a gentle, indifferent morning light. The birds in the courtyard sing as they do every day. The world outside the walls of your home continues on, oblivious, but inside, the atmosphere is heavy and ceremonial. You are bathed in water infused with fragrant herbs. You are dressed in clean, simple clothes. You are not allowed to eat, as if you are preparing for a religious rite. After the house is quiet, your mother leads you by the hand to the small, prepared room. Your grandmother is there, her face stern and impassive. A trusted senior maid is also present, her hands already busy organizing the tools of the trade, long strips of black cotton bandages, the sharp needle, thick thread, alum powder, and a basin of warm water. The door is closed, and the sound of the heavy wooden bar sliding into place echoes in the small space. It feels final. You are made to sit on a low stool. Your mother sits in front of you, taking one of your feet in her lap. Her hands, usually so graceful and steady, are trembling slightly. This is it, the moment you've been dreading. She begins by soaking your foot in the warm basin. The water is tinged with herbs and, some whispered stories say, even animal blood to soften the skin and bones. The warmth is deceptively soothing. She massages your foot, her fingers pressing firmly into your sole, your heel, your toes. It feels like she is memorizing it, saying goodbye to it in its current form. Then, she lifts your foot from the water and dries it carefully. She takes a deep breath, steeling herself. "Do not struggle," she says, her voice barely a whisper. "It will only make it worse." She holds your foot firmly. With her other hand, she takes your 4 smaller toes. She does not hesitate. With a sickening, cracking sound that you feel all the way up your leg, she breaks them, one by one. The pain is instantaneous, white-hot, and absolute. It's a pain so immense it transcends sound. You want to scream, but your throat closes up. A strangled gasp is all that comes out. Your vision whites out at the edges. Your mother doesn't stop. She forces the broken toes downwards, folding them under the sole of your foot. She presses them down with all her weight until they lie flat against the bottom of your foot, pointing towards your heel. You are writhing now, trying to pull away, but the maid holds your shoulders, her grip like iron. Tears stream down your face, silent and hot. Next, she takes the arch of your foot. This is the main event, the part that creates the coveted crescent moon shape. She puts her full strength into it, forcing your heel and the ball of your foot together, trying to bend the solid bone of your instep into a sharp, pronounced curve. It feels like your foot is being torn in half. This action is what separates a truly perfect binding from a mediocre one. It is a brutal, forceful architecture of pain. Historians note that the ideal was to create a deep cleft in the soul, sometimes deep enough to hold a coin. This was the mark of true mastery. Through a haze of agony, you see your grandmother nod in approval. Tighter, she commands. Your mother's face is pale, beaded with sweat. She looks at you, her own eyes filled with tears. But her hands do not relent. She is a sculptor, and your foot is her unforgiving stone. The goal is not just to bend, but to break, to shatter the natural structure, so it can be rebuilt in a new, beautiful image. The binding begins. Your mother takes one of the long, black bandages, starting at the instep. She wraps it around your toes, pulling them tighter and tighter underneath your sole. The cloth digs into your skin. She goes around your heel, pulling the front and back of your foot together with immense force. Deepening that excruciating art, the bandage is of ice, a tourniquet of pain, locking the broken bones into their new, unnatural position. She wraps and wraps, layer upon layer, until your foot is a tight, mummified bundle. Then, she takes the needle and thread, with quick, brutal stitches, sews the bandage shut so that you cannot possibly loosen it. The process is repeated on the other foot. You are beyond struggling now. A small, whimpering heap on the stool. The initial sharp agony has subsided into a throbbing, all-encompassing inferno. Your feet are on fire. They feel like they belong to someone else, to alien lumps of torment attached to your legs. When it's over, the maid helps you to your feet, forcing you to stand. The pressure on the broken, bound flesh is unbearable. You collapse immediately, sobbing, but you are forced up again. You must walk. Walking on the broken feet, they said, would help the bones set properly in their new shape. It is part of the process. Each step is a fresh wave of torture, grinding the broken pieces against each other. This is the first day. This is the first folding. And you know, with a certainty that chills you to the soul, that this is just the beginning. The world shrinks to the size of the small, dim room. The first night is a delirious blur of pain. Sleep is impossible. It's not just an ache, it's a relentless, searing fire in your feet. Every beat of your heart sends a fresh, agonizing throb through the tightly bound bundles at the end of your legs. You lie on your pallet, curled into a tight ball, biting down on your blanket to keep from screaming. The room is dark, but the pain is a constant, blinding light in your mind. Your mother sits with you through the night, a silent, shadowy figure. She dips cloths in cool water and lays them on your forehead. She murmurs soothing words that don't soothe. There is nothing she can do to stop the pain. This is a necessary part of the journey, the trial by fire that every good woman in her family has endured. By the second day, a new enemy arrives, the fever. Your body, struggling against the immense trauma, and the risk of infection in the crushed tissue, begins to fight back. A deep chill sets in, making you shiver uncontrollably despite the warm day. This is followed by waves of heat that leave you drenched in sweat, your skin clammy. You drift in and out of a restless, fevered sleep, plagued by nightmares. In them, you are running through the gardens, but the ground is made of sharp needles. This is the most dangerous period, the part of the process that is often glossed over in romanticized accounts. Infection was a constant and deadly risk. The circulation in your feet is cut off by the tight bindings, and the broken bones and crushed flesh are a breeding ground for bacteria. Gangrene was common. A small cut, a bit of dirt, or improperly cleaned bandages could lead to sepsis, a systemic infection that could easily be fatal for a child. Historians estimate that as many as 1 in 10 girls died from complications following the initial binding. It's a chilling statistic, a silent testament to the countless girls whose bodies could not withstand the ordeal. The beauty standard wasn't just painful, it was a life-threatening gamble. Your mother is vigilant. She checks your bindings, sniffing them for the telltale smell of rot. She forces you to drink bitter herbal teas meant to fight the fever and cleanse the blood. The room is filled with the pungent, medicinal aroma. You are too weak to resist, swallowing the foul-tasting liquid in pathetic gulps. On the third day, the fever breaks, leaving you exhausted and weak, but alive. The initial, sharp pain has subsided into a deep, permanent, throbbing ache. The flesh of your feet has begun to die. You can feel a strange numbness mixed with the pain, a sign that the nerves are giving up. You overhear your mother and grandmother talking just outside the door. Their voices are low and clinical. The swelling has gone down a bit. Your mother says, "There is no smell of decay yet." Your grandmother's reply is pragmatic. "Good, but the real test is the first unwrapping. We will see if the flesh is putrid or if the bones are setting." The thought of them unwrapping your feet, of exposing the mangled flesh to the air, fills you with a fresh wave of terror. The bandages, as agonizing as they are, feel like a shield, holding the broken pieces of you together. What will be underneath? During this time, you learn a strange, cold fact about the process, a piece of lore passed down from mother to daughter. Some believed that if a piece of flesh, or even a toe were to rot and fall off, it was a good thing. It meant the foot would be smaller and more delicate in the end. This horrifying idea that decay was a desirable outcome shows just how divorced from health and humanity this aesthetic had become. The ideal foot was not a living part of the body, but a sculpted, almost inanimate object. The goal was to remove as much of the living part of the foot as possible. You lie on your bed, a small, pathetic figure in a world of female pain. The sun casts a single, dusty beam through the high window, illuminating the dancing motes of dust in the air. They are free. They can drift and float wherever they please. You watch them, a lump of misery and regret in your throat. You think of the dragonfly you chased by the lotus pond what feels like a lifetime ago. You think of the feeling of cool mud between your toes. It's a world you can no longer access. The wrapping on your feet is more than just cloth. It's a boundary. It's the wall of your new, smaller life, built on a foundation of your own broken bones. And underneath that wrapping, in the heart, dark, airless space, your body is waging a silent, desperate war. A week passes, or maybe it's a month. Time has lost its meaning, measured now only in cycles of pain and brief, feverish snatches of sleep. The day for the first unwrapping arrives. The dread is a cold, hard knot in your stomach. The same trio your mother, your grandmother, and the maid gathers in the small room. The air is thick with anticipation. The maid brings a basin of warm water and a fresh set of black bandages. Your mother sits before you again, placing your right foot, now a tight, dark bundle, onto her lap. It feels alien, a dead weight at the end of your leg. She begins to cut the stitches that hold the wrapping closed. Then, slowly, she starts to unwind the long cotton strip. The smell hits you first. It's a sickeningly sweet, putrid odor of stale blood and decaying flesh. You gag, turning your head away. Your mother's face remains impassive, though you see her jaw tighten. This smell is part of the process. She continues to unwrap, layer by layer. The cloth is stuck fast to your skin in many places, caked with dried blood and fluids. As she pulls it away, it tears at the raw flesh underneath, bringing fresh waves of searing pain. You bite your lips so hard you taste blood. Finally, the last layer comes off. For the first time, you see what they have done. It's not a foot. It's a grotesque parody of one. It is swollen, purple, and black in places, the skin broken and weeping. Your toes, which you can just make out, are crushed and folded, completely underneath, their nails digging into the sole. The whole thing is bent into a severe, unnatural crescent shape. It looks like something that has been badly burned. This is the moment of truth. Your grandmother leans in, her eyes sharp and critical. She examines the mangled flesh not with pity, but with a craftsman's eye. She pokes at the sole, checking the depth of the cleft your mother has created. The arch is good, she says, a note of approval in her voice. Deep enough. She then inspects the toes. This is where a key, and often hidden, part of the process is revealed. Not all the broken bones would heal. Some would simply be ground away by the pressure and the constant walking. The goal was for the foot to essentially consume itself, to become smaller through necrosis and reabsorption. Many women would have lifelong problems with bone splinters working their way out of their skin. Your foot is plunged into the basin of hot water. The pain is so intense you almost faint. But the hot water is necessary to clean the wounds and, perversely, to further soften the tissue for the next stage. Your mother carefully washes away the blood and dead skin. It's a horrific, intimate act. She is tending to the very wounds she inflicted. Then the alum powder is sprinkled over the raw flesh. It stings terribly, but it's a crucial antiseptic that helps to dry out the wounds and prevent the worst of the infections. It also acts as an astringent, helping to shrink the skin. And then, the process begins anew. Your mother takes a fresh bandage. She checks that the toes are still tucked tightly underneath. She forces the arch to bend even further, ignoring your whimpers of pain. The goal is to make it smaller with each re-wrapping. The new bandage is pulled even tighter than the first time. The vise is replied, the tourniquet tightened. The broken bones are locked back into their prison of cloth. This cycle will become the rhythm of your life for the next 2 to 3 years. Every few days, the bandages will be removed, the foot cleaned, and then rebound, always a little tighter, always pushing the limits of what your body can endure. It's a relentless, painful ritual. There is no escape. The academic debate on this topic sometimes touches upon the psychological aspect. Was this prolonged, ritualized process a form of conditioning? Did it serve to break a girl's spirit just as it broke her feet, teaching her endurance, submission, and a complete dissociation from her own physical pain? It's a chilling thought. As the fresh bandage is sewn shut, a feeling of utter hopelessness washes over you. This is not a one-time event. This is a life sentence. The pain is not a temporary state, it is your new reality. You look at your mother, her face a mask of concentration as she performs this terrible, necessary act of love. You hate her for it, but in a strange, twisted way, you understand. She is forging you into a person who can survive in this world. She is destroying you to save you. This paradox sits at the heart of your suffering, a truth too complicated for a 7-year-old girl to grasp, but one you feel in the very marrow of your broken bones. The cycle of silken suffering has begun, and it will not end until your foot is no longer a foot, but a lily. The walls of the small room eventually fall away, but your world does not expand. Instead, your prison becomes portable. You are allowed to leave the room, but freedom is a concept that no longer applies to you. The first few months are a living nightmare of forced adaptation. You are made to walk every day, no matter how much you cry, no matter how much you beg. You are forced to walk around the courtyard. A special pair of walking shoes have been made for you. They are not the beautiful embroidered slippers you were promised. Those are a reward for later. These are functional, brutal things made of coarse cloth with wooden soles, designed to increase the pressure and pain. They offer no comfort, only purpose. Each step is a universe of agony. You cannot put your foot down flat. You have to learn to walk on your heels, with your toes curled underneath you. The entire weight of your body presses down on the broken, folded bones of your instep and the crushed knuckles of your toes. You feel the bones grinding against each other. The pain is sharp, specific, and nauseating. To manage, you develop a particular way of moving. You learn to sway your hips and torso to counterbalance your unsteady footing. You keep your steps incredibly small, a mere shuffle. You hold your arms out slightly, like a tightrope walker, to maintain your balance. In the beginning, you fall constantly, collapsing onto the cold stone pavers of the courtyard in a heap of tears and frustration. But a maid is always there to pull you back up. Get up, little miss. You must walk. The master said so. The other girls in the courtyard, the ones who are too young for the process or the daughters of lower-ranking servants with unbound feet, sometimes stop and stare. They watch your strange, tottering gait with a mixture of fear and fascination. You were once one of them, running and playing. Now, you are something else entirely. A work in progress, a living sculpture. Over time, your body begins to adapt in terrible ways. The muscles in your lower legs, no longer used for proper walking, begin to atrophy. They become thin and weak. Conversely, the muscles in your hips and buttocks grow stronger to compensate, creating the distinctive swaying walk that men of this era find so alluring. They write poetry about it, comparing it to a willow in the wind. They have no concept of the foundation of agony on which this graceful movement is built. This is a key part of the aesthetic that is often overlooked. The appeal wasn't just the smallness of the foot itself, but the way it transformed a woman's entire posture and gait. Her helplessness, her faltering steps, her reliance on support, all of this was considered the epitome of femininity. She was, by her very physical nature, fragile and dependent. One afternoon, while you are taking your mandated, painful walk around the lotus pond, you see your father. He is in the garden with a guest, a rare intrusion into the inner quarter. He watches you for a moment. You falter, embarrassed by your clumsy, painful shuffling. You expect him to look away in disapproval. Instead, he smiles. He turns to his guest and says something you cannot hear. But the guest looks at you and nods, his face a mask of admiration. In that moment, you understand. This is for them. This pain, this disfigurement, this hobbled existence, it is what they desire. Your suffering is the raw material for their aesthetic pleasure. ABAs aren't little known side effect of this new way of walking begins to emerge. Because you are constantly walking on your heels and with atrophied calf muscles, the circulation in your lower body is permanently altered. Many women with bound feet suffered from chronic coldness in their legs and, strangely, a higher incidence of varicose veins and other circulatory problems in their thighs and hips. The body, in its desperate attempt to function, reroutes its own plumbing with unforeseen consequences. Historians still debate the sexual dimension of foot binding. Some scholars, citing erotic literature from the Ming and Qing dynasties, argue that the lotus foot was the single most potent erotic object, with dozens of classifications for its shape and an elaborate culture around playing with and admiring it. Other historians are more cautious, suggesting that while an erotic element existed, its primary function was socialist as a symbol to show a family was wealthy enough that its women did not need to work. For you, shuffling along the stone path, the academic debate is meaningless. You just know that your father's smile, a rare gift, was bought with the fire in your feet, and so you keep walking, step by agonizing step, practicing the 摇曳的莲花步, the swaying lotus gait. That is both your torment and your only path to approval. After more than 2 years of the relentless cycle of binding, washing, and rebinding, the day finally comes when your grandmother and mother declare the process complete. Your feet have stopped shrinking. The bones have set into their new, permanent, broken shape. The flesh, for the most part, has healed into a mass of pale, scarred tissue. You have achieved the ideal. Your feet are just under 4 inches long, not the coveted golden lily of 3 inches, which was exceedingly rare and often resulted in complete disability, but a respectable silver lily. It is a triumph. To mark this occasion, you are presented with your first pair of proper lotus shoes. They are nothing like the coarse, functional shoes you've been forced to wear. These are works of art. They are made of bright red silk, the color of celebration and good fortune. They are exquisitely embroidered with delicate butterflies and peonies, stitched with threads of silver and jade green. The soles are stiff, and the small, central wooden heel is covered in matching silk. Your mother helps you slip them on. They are tight, encasing your bound feet like a second skin. They are designed to be displayed, to be seen. When you look down, you don't see the mangled reality of your feet. You see two perfect, beautiful, crescent-shaped objects. They are a lie, but it is a beautiful lie. A lie your entire society has agreed to believe in. You are paraded before the women of the family. Your aunts, your cousins, even the senior maids gather to admire the result of your long ordeal. They coo and marvel. Look at that perfect curve. One aunt says, like a new moon. Another reaches out, her hand hovering just above your shoe, as if touching a sacred object. Such a delicate thing. She will bring great honor to this family. You stand there, balancing precariously on the tiny heels, a living doll put on display. You feel a strange mix of pride and emptiness. You have done it. You have endured. You have succeeded in the single most important task of your young life. The praise feels good, a soothing balm on the raw memory of your pain. For a moment, you almost believe it was worth it. This is the mainstream understanding of foot binding. It was a status symbol. A girl with perfectly bound feet was a walking advertisement for her family's wealth and prestige. It announced to the world that her family was so prosperous. They could afford to have a completely non-productive member. She would never need to work in a field, walk long distances, or even perform strenuous household chores. Her disability was her family's honor badge. But later that day, the celebration over, you are alone in your room. You take off the beautiful red shoes. You are left with the reality to tightly bound appendages. The pain is no longer the sharp, acute agony of the beginning. It has settled into a chronic, dull ache that will be your constant companion for the rest of your life. It is a pain that will worsen with the weather, flaring up on cold, damp days. It is a pain that will never go away. Then there are other, hidden consequences. You learn a strange and sad piece of lore from an older maid: the meticulous hygiene required for the rest of your life, because your toes are permanently folded under. Cleaning between the crevices is a difficult and constant chore. If you neglect it even for a day, the smell can become unbearable. Many women developed chronic fungal infections and other skin ailments that they had to manage in secret. The beautiful illusion of the lotus foot required a lifetime of unpleasant, hidden maintenance. The shoes were beautiful, but the reality they concealed was a daily struggle. Historians argue about the true agency of women in this process. While it was a patriarchal system imposed upon them, some women took immense pride in their tiny feet and even competed with each other. They would embroider their own shoes with incredible skill, developing a rich subculture around this shared experience. Was this a form of internalized depression, or a way of finding power and identity? Within an incredibly restrictive system, there is no easy answer. They were both victims of a brutal standard and active participants in its perpetuation. As you sit on your bed, you look at the red silk shoes. They are a promise of a future, a good marriage, the respect of your peers, a life of relative ease. But they are also a cage, a beautiful, exquisitely embroidered cage that you have helped to build around yourself. You have exchanged the freedom of your body for the security of your social standing. The transaction is complete. You have your honor. You have your glory. You have your 3-inch golden lilies are close enough. And you have a lifetime of pain ahead of you. Your world, once defined by the cycle of binding and pain, now settles into a new, quieter rhythm, a rhythm of stillness. The geography of your life has been permanently redrawn. The house, which you once roamed freely, now has invisible walls. The garden, once a place of adventure, is now a distant landscape you view from a window or a veranda. Your days are structured around immobility. You learn the arts considered suitable for a lady of your station: embroidery, painting, and playing the zither. These are all activities that can be performed while sitting. Your hands become nimble and skilled, your fingers dancing across silk canvases and musical strings, compensating for the stillness of your feet. Your world becomes small, refined, and intensely focused on the few feet of space around your chair. When you do walk, it is a performance. You move from the pavilion to the garden for a breath of fresh air, leaning on the arm of a maid. Your swaying lotus gait, once a source of painful practice, is now second nature. It is admired, it is praised, but it is also a constant reminder of your limitations. A simple errand, like fetching a book from a shelf in the next room, is a calculated effort. A dropped fan is a minor crisis, requiring you to call for help. You are a prisoner in your own home, not by locked doors, but by the very architecture of your own body. This immobility had profound social and physical consequences. It effectively guaranteed a woman's chastity and fidelity by making it physically difficult for her to travel or meet anyone without an escort. It kept her firmly within the domestic sphere, under the control of the family patriarch. This is the stark, social engineering aspect of the practice that is impossible to ignore. But there are other, more subtle consequences that you begin to notice. You watch your younger brothers. They come and go as they please, their worlds expanding as they grow older. They travel to the city. They learn archery. They speak of things that happen beyond the garden walls. Your world, in contrast, has shrunk. Your knowledge of the outside world comes from whispers, from stories told by visiting relatives, from the tales of traveling merchants. You are an observer of life, not a participant. One day, a new obsession takes hold in the women's quarters. A famous courtesan in the capital has written a small book, a guide to the art of the lotus. A copy, secretly passed from hand to hand, makes its way to your aunts. In hushed tones, they read from it. It's a bizarre and detailed text, a catalogue of connoisseurship that treats the bound foot not as a body part, but as an object of art. This is a strange, lesser-known aspect of the culture. A whole body of literature existed dedicated to the classification and appreciation of bound feet. The book describes 48 different types of lotus feet, with poetic names like the white jade shoot, the slender arched, and the lotus petal. It details different ways to hold them, different games to play with the shoes, different scents to perfume them with. It is a manual for the objectification of your own body. You listen to this, a cold feeling spreading through you. Your own silver lilies, the source of your chronic pain, are being discussed as if they were a variety of tea or a type of collectible vase. It's profoundly dehumanizing. The historical debate around this is fascinating. Some scholars see texts like these as evidence of a sophisticated, if disturbing, aesthetic culture. They argue that it shows women unactively participating in unshaping the standards of their own beauty. Others see it as the ultimate expression of patriarchal control, where a woman's body is so completely dissected and objectified that it ceases to be her own. It's a classic Is the glass half empty or half full scenario, except the glass is filled with poison. You look down at your silk-clad feet, resting on a small stool. They are beautiful. They are admired. They are your honor. But they are also the anchors that keep you tethered to this quiet, gilded cage. You have been shaped, sculpted, and refined into a perfect object. You can be displayed, appreciated, and praised, but you cannot run. You cannot explore. You cannot leave your life. You realize it will be a long, slow series of beautiful, stationary moments. You have been made into a living work of art, and like most art, you are destined to hang on a wall or, in this case, sit in a chair and be quietly admired from a distance. The stillness is not serene. It is the stillness of confinement. Your feet, once the sole focus of your transformation, are now considered complete, a finished project. But the relentless pursuit of an artificial ideal does not end there. The canvas simply shifts. Now, the attention of your mother and aunts turns to your face. You are approaching marriageable age, and while your silver lilies are an excellent foundation, they are not enough. Your face must be made equally perfect, equally artificial. The new standard of beauty is dominated by a single, powerful ideal complexion of ghostly pallor, not just fair-skinned, but a stark, opaque, flawless white, like the finest porcelain or polished jade. A healthy, rosy glow is seen as rustic and common. the mark of a peasant who works in the sun. True aristocratic beauty is fragile, ethereal, and utterly devoid of natural color. It is a beauty that whispers of a life lived entirely indoors, away from the corrupting influence of the sun and manual labor. You begin to spend hours in front of the lacquered dressing table, the same one where you first saw your mother's tiny shoes. But now, the pots and boxes are for you. Your day starts not with breakfast, but with the ritual of the face. First, your face is washed with a special cleansing lotion, often made from rice water, which is believed to have whitening properties. Your skin is scrubbed and polished, preparing it for the main event. The central tool in this quest for whiteness is a cosmetic powder called Qian Fen Qian Fen, or lead powder. It is a dense, heavy, white powder that provides a thick, mask-like coverage. Your maid shows you how to apply it. She mixes the powder with water to form a paste, then carefully smooths it over your entire face, your neck, and even your ears. The feeling is strange. It's cool and heavy, and it smells faintly of metal. It dries into a smooth, matte finish, erasing every freckle, every blemish, every trace of your natural skin tone. When you look in the bronze mirror, the face staring back is not your own. It's a generic, idealized mask of beauty. The girl with the mosquito bite scar and the faint spray of freckles across her nose is gone. In her place is a stranger with a blank, white, perfect face. It is unsettling, but you are told it is beautiful. Your mother inspects the application, nodding in approval. Flawless, she says, like a pearl. This pursuit of a deathly pallor using lead-based makeup is a historical fact that spanned many cultures, not just China. From ancient Rome to Elizabethan England, lead was the foundation of elite beauty. It was prized for its opacity and its ability to create that coveted, unnatural whiteness. What was less understood, or perhaps willfully ignored, was that it was a potent neurotoxin. You begin to wear this leaden mask every day. It is your new face, but you start to notice things. The powder clogs your pores, and when you wash it off at night, your skin underneath is irritated and red. Sometimes you develop small sores and blemishes, which then require an even thicker layer of powder the next day to conceal. It's a vicious cycle. One afternoon, you hear the maids whispering about one of your distant cousins. She was famous for her beauty, her skin said to be the whitest in the province. But now, they say, she is ill. She suffers from terrible headaches. Her hands tremble, and she has fits of rage followed by long periods of confusion. They blame it on a curse, on bad spirits. They do not make the connection to the little porcelain pot of white powder that she, like you, applied to her face every day for years. This is the chilling, lesser-known reality of the ghostly pallor. Lead is absorbed through the skin. Over time, it builds up in the body, leading to chronic poisoning. The symptoms were insidious and often misdiagnosed neurological damage, kidney failure, severe anemia, and terrible skin lesions. The very substance used to create the illusion of flawless beauty was, in fact, slowly destroying the woman beneath it. Historians still debate how much ancient people understood about the toxicity of these cosmetics. Some evidence suggests that physicians from ancient Greece to the Ming Dynasty did write about the dangers of lead. They warned of its corrosive effects on the skin and its internal dangers. Yet, the practice continued for centuries. Was it a case of ignorance, or did the desire for beauty simply outweigh the fear of a slow, creeping death? It's a question that echoes through history. What price are people willing to pay for an ideal? You, of course, know nothing of neurotoxins or heavy metal poisoning. You only know that when you smile, the thick powder cracks around your mouth, creating tiny fissures in your perfect mask. You learn to keep your expression neutral, serene, and still, just like you learned to keep your steps small and your body still. You now learn to keep your face still. Your transformation continues. You are becoming less of a person and more of a perfect, beautiful, and silent object, and you are slowly, invisibly, being poisoned by your own beauty. The quest for the perfect, pale canvas is not a simple affair of just applying powder. The raw material, your skin and its features, must first be meticulously prepared. The application of the lead powder is merely the final, sealing layer. The true artistry, the real devotion to the ideal, lies in the details that come before. Your mother introduces you to a new set of tools and rituals, each designed to refine your face into a work of art. One of the most important of these is the creation of the makeup itself. This is not something you simply buy from a market. For a high-status family like yours, cosmetics are often made at home, a secret recipe passed down through generations. One day, your mother takes you to a small, clean-out butling where the senior maids perform this delicate alchemy. You watch, fascinated, as they work. The process for making the lead powder is complex. They start with small plates of lead, which are corroded using vinegar vapor. The white, flaky substance that forms on the surface is then carefully scraped off. This is the raw CERUs, or white lead. It's then ground into an incredibly fine powder using a mortar and pestle, often made of stone or porcelain. But it's not just lead. To make the powder finer, smoother, and more adherent, other ingredients are added. They mix in ground oyster shells for a subtle sheen, or fine rice starch to give it a lighter texture. The most luxurious powders are scented. The maids will spend days layering the powder with fresh jasmine or magnolia petals, transferring the floral scent to the toxic dust. The final product is a fragrant, silky, pearlescent powder that feels cool and luxurious to the touch. You watch them work, their hands covered in the white dust. They laugh and chat as they grind and sift. They have no idea they are handling a deadly poison. They are proud of their craft, of the quality of the fan they produce. It's a point of honor for the household. This is a strange, intimate detail of history, the domestic production of these dangerous substances. It was a faceless, industrial process. It was a household craft, performed by women, for women. The poison was not an invading enemy. It was a familiar part of the domestic landscape, as common as the tea leaves in the kitchen. As you become more adept at applying your own makeup, you learn the subtleties. A single layer of powder is for everyday wear. For a banquet or a festival, 2 or 3 layers might be applied, creating a truly opaque, mask-like effect. You also learn about other products. There is rouge, of course, a small circle of bright red applied high on the cheekbones, not to look natural, but to stand out in stark contrast to the white skin. It's a stylized blush, a deliberate dot of color on the pale canvas. But the most bizarre product you are introduced to is a kind of face spackle. It's a thick, waxy paste, often made with animal fat and other secret ingredients. Its purpose is to fill in any imperfections before the powder is applied. If you have a pockmark from a childhood illness or an acne scar, you would fill it in with this paste, like a carpenter filling a hole in a piece of wood, to create a perfectly smooth surface. The dedication to flawlessness was absolute. The historical debate here revolves around intent versus outcome. Did women truly believe this made them more beautiful, or was it a form of competitive signaling in a world where your face was your resume? Presenting an absolutely perfect, unblemished front was paramount. A flawless face signaled not just genetic luck, but the wealth and discipline of your family. It showed you could afford the finest cosmetics and had the leisure time to apply them. The question remains, at what point does a beauty standard become an arms race of self-destruction? You look at your own reflection in the bronze mirror. The face is a carefully constructed illusion. The smoothness is spackle. The whiteness is lead. The rosy cheeks are a painted undot of color. It is a masterpiece of artifice. You are learning to admire it, to see it as you. But at night, when you wash it all away, your real face reappears, red and irritated from the cosmetics. You see the girl you used to be, and she looks increasingly tired. You are caught between 2 realities: the praised, public illusion and the private, deteriorating truth. The lead is a slow, patient poison, and its work is just beginning. The white powder is a heavy, suffocating blanket. As you apply it day after day, you begin to feel its weight not just on your skin, but on your spirit. The ritual is elaborate. You sit perfectly still as your maid, or sometimes your mother, dabs and smooths the paste onto your face. It's cold at first, a shock against your warm skin. As it dries, it tightens, creating a stiff, immobile mask. You are explicitly taught to limit your facial expressions. A wide smile will crack the foundation, revealing the imperfect skin beneath. A hearty laugh is out of the question, not only because it's unladylike, but because it would be a cosmetic disaster. You cultivate an expression of serene neutrality. Your eyes might show a flicker of emotion, but your face remains a placid, white canvas. It is the look of a statue, of something beautiful but not quite alive. When you attend social gatherings with your mother and dance, you see this look mirrored on every high-ranking woman in the room. They are a collection of living porcelain dolls, their faces all sharing the same ghostly pallor, the same small, red-painted lips, the same placid expressions. There is a strange uniformity to their beauty, an erasure of individuality in favor of a collective ideal. You are all wearing the same mask. This is a core concept of many historical beauty standards, the suppression of the individual. The goal wasn't to enhance your unique features, but to erase them and replace them with a standardized, approved set of characteristics. You were not trying to be the most beautiful version of yourself. You were trying to be the most perfect incarnation of a shared idea. One evening, during a family banquet, you are seated near a window. The room is filled with lanterns, and the air is warm. You begin to perspire slightly. A bead of sweat trickles down your temple, carving a tiny, grayish path through your white makeup. You feel a surge of panic. You subtly dab at it with your silk sleeve, trying to repair the damage before anyone notices. A flaw in the mask is a flaw in your character, a sign that you lack the poise to remain perfectly cool and composed. The mask is not just a cosmetic layer, it is a psychological one. It creates a distance between you and the world, and between you and your own feelings. When you are wearing the mask, you are not yourself. You are playing a role, the dutiful daughter, the serene lady, the beautiful object. It becomes a kind of armor, protecting you from scrutiny, but also isolating you within it. You learn a strange, sad, and rather disgusting little secret of this cosmetic practice. Because the lead powder was so thick and so precious, and the application so time-consuming, women would often not wash their faces every night. They might sleep in their makeup for several days, simply touching it up in the morning. They would sleep carefully, on their backs, to avoid smudging the mask on their pillows. This, of course, exacerbated the skin problems, trapping sweat and dirt under the toxic layer, leading to more sores, which in turn required even more makeup to cover. It was a downward spiral of dermatological distress. The historical discourse on this is quite poignant. Some historians view this practice through a lens of practicality. It was simply easier, but others see a deeper psychological element. Perhaps it was easier to live continuously in the role than to face the transition each night back to the flaw itself. Perhaps the mask became more real, more comfortable, than the face beneath it. The debate continues on whether this was a choice born of convenience or a symptom of a deeply ingrained self-rejection. You are now living that reality. The mask is becoming your face. The moments when your skin is bare and clean feel increasingly strange and vulnerable. You find yourself rushing to reapply the powder in the morning to restore the perfect, white, approved version of yourself. The cruel, heavy feeling of the lead paste is no longer a shock, it is a comfort. It is the feeling of being correct, of being beautiful, of being safe. You are sitting in the garden, a perfect portrait of feminine grace. Your feet are tucked away in their tiny silk shoes. Your face is a flawless white oval. Your expression is serene. A visiting relative compliments your mother on your poison beauty. You incline your head slightly, the perfect, silent acknowledgement, but underneath the mask, your skin itches. A small, sore spot is forming on your chin, and deep within your bones, the lead is slowly, silently accumulating. The mask is beautiful. The mask is praised, but the mask is eating you alive. The years pass as they do in the inner quarters quietly, season bleeding into season, marked by festivals and the blooming of different flowers in the garden. Your mask has become a permanent feature, as much a part of you as your own hands. The initial irritation has faded into a dull acceptance, but deep beneath the surface, the slow, patient work of the poison continues. The corrosion is unseen, but you are beginning to feel it. It starts subtly, a persistent, faint metallic taste in your mouth, a flavor like sucking on an old coin, that no amount of tea can wash away. You feel a constant weariness that settles deep in your bones, a fatigue that sleep doesn't seem to touch. You attribute it to the quiet life, the lack of fresh air, the boredom. Your mother says it is simply the nature of a refined woman to be delicate and easily tired. But then other symptoms begin to surface. You suffer from sharp, cramping pains in your stomach that come and go without reason, leaving you doubled over and breathless. A physician is called. He is an old man who smells of dried herbs. He takes your pulse, examines your tongue, and asks about your diet. He never once asks about the thick layer of white powder on your face. He diagnoses an imbalance of qi, a disharmony between your yin and yang. He prescribes a foul-tasting black tonic that does nothing to stop the pains. This was the tragic reality of lead poisoning in the pre-modern era. The symptoms of plum is abdominal colic, fatigue, irritability. Muscle pain were so general that they were almost always attributed to other causes. The true culprit, the beautiful, toxic mask you wore every day, was entirely overlooked. It was the foundation of your beauty, and therefore it was invisible to suspicion. Then comes a stranger, more specific symptom, a lesser known but classic sign of chronic lead poisoning. While cleaning your teeth one morning, you notice a strange, faint, bluish black line along your gums, right where they meet your teeth. It's not dirt. It cannot be scrubbed away. You show your mother in a panic. She has never seen anything like it. The physician is called again. He is baffled. He speculates it might be a sign of bad blood or a weakness in your spleen. He has no name for this Burton's line. The term future doctors will use to describe the deposit of lead sulfide in the gum tissue. To you and your family, it is a frightening, inexplicable stain, the mark of some inner decay. The irony is horrific. You are spending hours each day to create a perfect, white, flawless exterior, while on the inside, the poison is literally staining your bones and tissues, marking you with its signature. The most frightening changes are neurological. Your memory, once sharp, begins to soften at the edges. You find yourself forgetting names or losing the thread of a story. Sometimes, your hands tremble so slightly that only you can notice it. You become more irritable, prone to fits of melancholy that descend without warning. You are told this is made on light sensitivity, a sign of your refined and delicate nature. No one connects your failing health with the cosmetic pot on your vanity. Historians and toxicologists still debate the extent of awareness in pre-modern societies. Some ancient medical texts, from both the East and West, do contain warnings about the dangers of consuming or working with lead. They note its corrosive properties and its ill effects. However, there seems to have been a significant disconnect between this industrial or medicinal knowledge and the world of female cosmetics. Was this information simply not shared, deemed irrelevant to the women's quarters, or was the allure of the white face so powerful that any warnings were willfully ignored? Did women, on some level, know they were making a trade-off, or were they truly unwitting victims? The consensus leans towards a tragic lack of understanding, a failure to connect the slow, creeping symptoms to the daily ritual of beauty. You are living proof of that failure. You are a beautiful porcelain doll, admired by all for your flawless complexion and serene grace. But you feel yourself cracking from the inside. The polished white mask hides the gray line on your gums, the cramps in your stomach, the tremor in your hands, the fog in your mind. The pursuit of external perfection is causing an internal collapse. The beautiful horror of your existence is this: you are being praised for a beauty that is actively, systematically, and invisibly destroying you. The slow internal decay from the lead powder is a secret you keep, a vague and formless anxiety. The external world, however, is concerned with far more tangible imperfections. The lead mask, for all its power, cannot hide everything. It can conceal color, but it cannot completely conceal texture. One afternoon, as you sit by a window embroidering a silk panel, your mother studies your face with the intense, critical gaze you have come to dread. The light from the window is brightened and forgiving. She reaches out and gently tilts her chin up. The powder does not lie perfectly flat here, she murmurs, her finger tracing the line of your cheek. The downy hair. It catches the light. You had never even considered it. The fine, soft, almost invisible hair that covers your face. It's a natural part of being human. But in this world, nature is the enemy of beauty. It is the raw, unrefined material that must be tamed, polished, and perfected. This fine down, she explains, creates an imperfect surface. It prevents the lead powder from achieving its ultimate, porcelain-like smoothness. It is a flaw, and it must be removed. The solution is a ritual known as Guanmayan or Kaoyan, which translates to opening the face. It's a rite of passage, traditionally performed on a young woman shortly before her wedding to signify her transition into womanhood and to present a clean face to her new family. For you, it is simply the next logical step in the escalating war against imperfection. An expert is summoned. She is an older woman from the city, known simply as the face threader. She arrives with no complex tools, just a small pouch containing a spool of strong cotton thread and a block of white powder. She is all business, her hands swift and her eyes missing nothing. You are seated on a stool in the middle of the room. The threader begins by dusting your face with her powder, not the toxic lid kind, but a simple, dry powder meant to absorb any oil and allow the thread to grip the hairs more effectively. Then she takes a long piece of thread, looping it into a complex shape, holding one end in her mouth and the other two ends taut in her hands. The thread becomes her instrument, her weapon. She starts at your cheek, near your ear. She lowers the twisted section of the thread onto your skin, and then, with a quick, practiced movement of her hands, she slides the twist across your face. The sound is a soft, sharp zip. The sensation is a carpet of tiny, simultaneous stings, as a whole row of fine hairs is trapped in the threads not undripped out by the roots. Your eyes water instantly. The pain is not deep like the breaking of bones, but it is sharp, hurt, and incredibly irritating. She doesn't pause. Zip, zip, zip. She works in a steady, relentless rhythm across your cheek, down towards your jaw. It feels like 1,000 tiny needles pricking you over and over. This is the mainstream historical knowledge of facial threading, a practice still used today. It's an effective epilation method that removes hair from the follicle. But in your time, it's more than just cosmetology, it's a deeply symbolic act. The threader moves to the area above your upper lip, a notoriously sensitive spot. You flinch as the thread zips across your skin. A small gasp escapes you. The threader makes a small, impatient sound. Be still, she commands. A perfect face requires a still body. As she works, she mutters under her breath. An older maid later tells you a strange, lesser-known belief associated with the practice. Some threaders would whisper auspicious phrases, believing that the pain of the ritual would drive away evil spirits and ensure a happy, fertile marriage. The pain was not just a side effect, it was part of the magic. Historians still discuss the primary motivation behind Wan Mayan. Was it purely an aesthetic choice, the logical endpoint of a culture obsessed with absolute smoothness, a way to better prepare the canvas for makeup, or was it more of a ritualistic purification, a painful initiation that separated the girl from the woman like so many of these practices? The answer is likely both. It was a physical trial that produced a culturally approved aesthetic result. When she is finished, your face is a blotchy, red, throbbing mess. It burns as if you have a terrible sunburn, but when you touch it, it is astonishingly, unnaturally smooth. It's like touching polished marble. Your mother inspects the work, ignoring the redness. She nods, satisfied. Good. Now the powder will be flawless. A soothing lotion made of cucumber or aloe is applied to calm the angry skin. The cool relief is immense. The next morning, the redness has faded. You apply the lead powder as usual, but this time, it's different. It glides on, settling into a perfect, unbroken sheet of white. There are no tiny hairs to disrupt the surface. The illusion is complete. Your face is no longer skin. It is a prepared surface, a gesso-edged canvas, ready for the paint. You have endured another layer of pain to achieve another level of artifice. Each step takes you further from the girl you were born as, and closer to the perfect object you are expected to be. The newly smoothed canvas of your face is now ready for its final and most crucial piece of landscaping, the forehead. A smooth cheek and jawline are important, but the forehead is the very seat of a woman's beauty and, according to traditional face reading, her intelligence and fortune. The ideal is not a natural forehead. It is a high, broad, and perfectly rounded arch, like a full moon rising. Your natural hairline, unfortunately, is deemed inadequate. It is too low, too uneven. It gives you a cluttered look. Your mother explains, to achieve the desired look, your hairline must be aggressively reshaped. The face threader's work was just the beginning. Now, a more permanent solution is required. You are introduced to a new, painful routine. Your maid is given a special set of tweezers and a clear set of instructions. Every few days, she must pluck the hairs along your natural hairline, slowly but surely pushing it back. The process is agonizingly slow and tedious. Each pluck is a sharp, distinct sting. Use it for what feels like hours. Your eyes clenched shut as the maid meticulously removes hair after hair. The goal is to create a new, higher, and perfectly clean arch. This isn't just a simple tidying up of stray hairs. This is a deliberate act of follicular deforestation. This practice, known as plucking the hairline, was a common, if less discussed, aspect of beauty for aristocratic women. It dramatically altered a woman's facial proportions, creating an almost alien-like appearance by modern standards, but one that was considered the height of elegance and refinement in your time. It elongated the face and emphasized the delicate arch of the painted-on eyebrows, which would sit below it. As your hairline is forced to retreat, your forehead becomes a vast, pale expanse. It feels exposed and vulnerable. You catch your reflection in a polished vase and are startled by the stranger looking back at you. Your face seems longer, your features smaller and more delicate in the vastness of your new forehead. But the obsession doesn't stop with just a high hairline. You learn a bizarre and little-known trick of the trade. To enhance the appearance of a high, noble forehead, some women would not only pluck their hairline but also shave the fine, baby hairs at their temples. This created an even starker, cleaner line, and for special occasions, a truly dedicated beauty might apply a thin layer of wax or sticky resin to the upper part of her forehead to catch the light and give it a polished, gleaming look. The dedication to this specific feature was immense. The historical debate around this practice is fascinating. Was this purely an aesthetic trend, driven by the depictions of goddesses and court ladies in popular paintings, or did it have a deeper, symbolic meaning? Some scholars suggest that a high, clear forehead was associated with wisdom and A clear mind in physiognomies, the art of face reading. By artificially creating this feature, a woman was not just making herself more beautiful, but also projecting an image of inner virtue and intelligence, or at least, the kind of placid, non-threatening intelligence deemed appropriate for a woman. It was a form of biocosmetic propaganda. You are now a walking embodiment of this propaganda. Your forehead, once a normal part of your face, is now your most prominent feature. A carefully sculpted, hairless dome. It is praised by your aunts. Such an open and lucky forehead. They say, she will surely have clever sons. Their praise feels distant, irrelevant to the reality of the stinging, irritated skin along your new, artificial hairline. You have become a collection of disembodied, perfected parts. You have feet that are not feet, but lilies. You have skin that is not skin, but a porcelain mask. And now you have a forehead that is not a forehead, but a mood. You are being disassembled and reassembled into a fantasy. Each part of you is judged against an impossible, inhuman ideal. The pain and the strangeness of it all are beginning to feel normal. You are so far from the girl who ran in the garden that you can barely remember what her face looked like. You only know this new one, the one with the high, gleaming, and unnaturally empty forehead, a blank slate upon which a man could project his own dreams and desires. Just when you think every part of you has been scrutinized, plucked, and perfected, a new and startling aesthetic trend arrives from the capital, carried on the whispers of travelers and the pronouncements of fashionable relatives. It is a trend that seems to defy all logic, a complete inversion of what you thought you understood about beauty. The new obsession is with blackened teeth. The first time you hear it, you think it must be a joke. Your whole life, you've been taught that cleanliness and whiteness are paramount. The lip powder on your face is a testament to that. The idea of deliberately staining your teeth a dark lacquer like black is bizarre, almost grotesque. But the trend catches on with surprising speed in the fashionable circles of the inner quarters. Your third aunt, always the first to adopt a new style, is the first to try it. She debuts her new look at a family gathering. When she smiles her small, controlled smile, the effect is shocking. Her teeth, once normal, are now a uniform, glossy black, against the stark white of her elite powdered face. The contrast is dramatic and unsettling. It's like looking at a photographic negative. You stare, trying to comprehend the appeal, but the other women, after their initial surprise, are intrigued. How very chic. One says, it makes your skin look even whiter by comparison. Another adds, and you can no longer see any stains from tea. It's a kind of perfection, in its own way. This practice, known in Japan as ho-iguro, also had a long and varied history in China and other parts of Southeast Asia. While it never became as universal as foot binding, it was a recurring and powerful fashion trend in certain periods and regions. It was seen as a sign of maturity, beauty, and civilization. A wide, white-toothed grin was considered animalistic and barbaric. A blackened smile was a sign of a human who had transcended their natural, savage state. It was also, pragmatically, believed to help protect the teeth from decay. Your mother decides that you, too, must adopt this new fashion. It is a sign of your family's sophistication and awareness of metropolitan rents. You are resistant. The idea of painting your teeth black feels like a step too far, a deliberate act of marring yourself. But your resistance is always, futile. The process is unpleasant. A special dye has to be prepared. The recipe varies, but it's typically a dark, acidic liquid made by dissolving iron filings in vinegar or tea. Sometimes, other ingredients like gallnuts or spices are added to create a richer black color and a more pleasant smell. The resulting liquid is a foul-smelling, inky concoction. A maid brings you a small bowl of the dark liquid and a soft cloth. She instructs you to paint it carefully onto each tooth, ensuring an even, consistent coat. The taste is intensely sour and metallic, making your mouth pucker and your stomach churn. You have to sit with your mouth slightly open, trying not to swallow, while the dye dries into a lacquer-like finish. The process must be repeated every few days, as the dye wears off with eating and drinking. This is one of the more peculiar lesser-known facts about historical beauty, the sheer inconvenience and unpleasantness of some practices. We imagine beauty rituals as pampering and luxurious, but something like tooth blackening was a malodorous, bad-tasting chore, endured for the sake of fashion. As you sit there, with the mouth full of sour iron liquid, you wonder about the origins of such a strange idea. Historians debate this very question. Some argue its primary purpose was dental health. The iron and acid solution did, in fact, create a protective seal over the enamel that could help prevent cavities. In this view, the aesthetic appeal grew out of a practical benefit. Others argue the opposite, that the aesthetic came first. They suggest it was a way to hide dental imperfections in an era before modern dentistry. A uniform black was preferable to a mouth of uneven, stained, or decaying teeth. A third school of thought emphasizes this symbolism, tying it to rites of passage, marital status, and a rejection of animal nature. It's a classic chicken or egg problem of historical cosmetology. When the dye is finally dry, you look at your reflection. The black smile is alien. It makes you look older, more severe. It feels like a mask for your mouth, just as the lead powder is a mask for your skin. It completes the transformation of your face into something entirely artificial, a collection of stark, graphic contrasts: white skin, black teeth, red lips, and, as you will soon learn, dark, painted-on eyebrows. You are becoming a living painting, and every natural part of you is being painted over. The daily ritual of maintaining your new, blackened smile is a grim affair. Each morning, before you can eat or drink, you must check your teeth in the bronze mirror. The lacquer often chips or fades overnight, leaving an uneven, mottled appearance that is considered far uglier than either pure white or pure black. You spend precious minutes carefully reapplying the sour, metallic dye, your stomach churning from the taste and smell. The concoction itself is a source of constant, low-grade misery. The recipe your family uses is particularly potent, a mixture of rusted iron nails soaked for weeks in bitter tea. The maids keep a large clay pot of it steeping in a dark corner of the kitchen, and the faint, vinegary smell seems to follow you around. You learn to live with the taste, but it changes your relationship with food. Eating becomes a chore, a risk to the pristine blackness of your teeth. You sip tea carefully, trying not to let it wash over your front teeth too much. You avoid hard or crunchy foods that might chip the lacquer. Your life is governed by a new set of tedious, beauty-preserving rules. One day, you have a conversation with your great-aunt, who is visiting from a more conservative province where tooth blackening is not in vogue. She looks at your smile with unconcealed disapproval. "In my day," she says, her voice crisp, a woman's virtue was reflected in her clear eyes and natural demeanor, not in fashionable stains. Her comment, meant as a critique, accidentally reveals a deeper truth about these beauty standards: their arbitrariness. What is considered the pinnacle of beauty in the capital is seen as a vulgar stain in the provinces. What was beautiful yesterday is ugly today. What is ugly today might be beautiful tomorrow. The standards are not fixed or universal, they are fluid, changing with the whims of fashion, geography, and time. You are dedicating your life, enduring pain and discomfort, to chase an ideal that is fundamentally unstable and subjective. This brings up a fascinating and often overlooked aspect of historical beauty: the anti-cosmetics movements. Throughout history, for every extreme beauty trend, there has been a counter-movement that champions natural beauty. Philosophers, conservative elders, and social critics would often write diatribes against the use of powders, paints, and dyes, seeing them as deceptive, immoral, and a sign of social decay. These critics, like your great-aunt's comment, show that these beauty standards weren't ever universally accepted. Even within their own time, there was always a debate, a tension between the artificial and the natural. The historical discourse on tooth blackening specifically is full of these contradictions. While some texts praise it as a sign of refinement, others mock it. There are satirical poems from the Tang and Song dynasties that describe women with blackened teeth as looking like they've been eating mulberries or have mouths full of flies. This reveals a society that was not monolithic in its aesthetic tastes. For every poet praising a woman's lacquer smile, there was another satirist finding it ridiculous. You are caught in the middle of this cultural tug-of-war. Your mother and aunts praise your fashionable smile. Your great aunt scorns it. You, personally, hate the taste, the smell, and the constant, tedious upkeep. That your personal feelings are irrelevant. You are a vessel for your family's social ambitions. And right now, that means having a mouth full of sour, black dye. Use it through another long afternoon gathering. Smiling your small, controlled, black-toothed smile. You sip your tea carefully. You listen to the women discuss the latest fashions. You are the perfect picture of a modern, sophisticated young lady, but you feel a growing sense of absurdity. You have broken your feet, poisoned your skin, plucked your forehead bare, and now you are painting your teeth with a foul-smelling rust concoction. Each act of beautification feels more bizarre than the last. You wonder what they will ask of you next. You are on a relentless treadmill of transformation, and there seems to be no end in sight. The bitter taste in your mouth is no longer just from the dye, it is the taste of your own life. With your face, now a stark canvas of white skin and black teeth, the final details must be drawn in to give it expression, or rather, a specific, stylized imitation of expression. Your own eyebrows, like your natural hairline and skin color, are deemed insufficient. They are too wild, too expressive, too real. They must be removed and replaced with something more fashionable and artistic. The process begins with an act of total erasure. One morning, your maid comes to you not with tweezers, but with a small, sharp razor. You are instructed to lean back and close your eyes. With steady, careful strokes, she shaves off your eyebrows completely. The sensation is strange, a cold scraping followed by an unnerving baldness. When you look in the mirror, the effect is shocking. Without eyebrows, your face is a blank, alien landscape. Your eyes look lost and undefined. It is the visual equivalent of being rendered mute. This practice of shaving the eyebrows was a common step in creating the elaborate makeup looks of the Tang Dynasty and Sui revivals in later periods. It provided a clean slate for the artist, and you were the canvas to paint on whatever brow shape was currently in vogue. Your mother then brings out a small, ornate box. Inside are sticks of momo, the same black ink used for calligraphy, and a small grinding stone. She prepares the ink, grinding the stick with a few drops of water to create a dark, smooth liquid. She also has a small pot of a thicker, waxy black pigment. With a fine-tipped brush, she begins to paint your new eyebrows onto the bare skin of your brow bone. But she doesn't draw a natural-looking eyebrow. Instead, she paints a thin, arched line high above where your natural brows used to be. The shape she creates is called a Yuan Shan, Mei Yuan Shan Mei, or distant hill's brow. It's meant to look like the faint, delicate silhouette of a mountain range on the horizon. It's not meant to look like hair. It's meant to look like a line of poetry drawn on your face. You learn that there is a whole catalog of fashionable eyebrow shapes, each with its own poetic name. There's the Chu Yan Mei Chou Yan Mei, or worried smoke brow, a faint, blurry brow that was thought to give a woman a perpetually melancholic and romantic look. There was the willow leaf brow, which was long and gracefully curved. The shapes would change with the whims of the imperial court, or the influence of a famous poet or court saying. A woman's face became a reflection of the latest literary and artistic trends. The application is a skill that takes you weeks to master. Your hand shakes, creating wobbly, uneven lines. You have to wipe it off and start again. Irritating the sensitive skin. You practice for hours, trying to get the arches perfectly symmetrical, the lines perfectly smooth. Your new face is not only a mask, but a high-maintenance one that requires a steady hand in an artist's eye every single day. This is a key piece of historical knowledge that is often lost, the sheer skill involved in these beauty practices. We might see the results as strange, but achieving them required a level of artistry and daily dedication that is hard to comprehend. A strange, lesser-known aspect of this practice was the use of stencils. For women who were less artistically inclined, small stencils made of paper or carved wood were available. They could be held against the skin to guide the brush, ensuring a perfect, fashionable shape every time. It was a kind of beauty by numbers, further emphasizing the goal of standardization over individuality. Historians debate the symbolic meaning of these artificial brows. Were they simply a form of artistic expression, a way for women to engage with the high culture of poetry and painting, or was it another form of control? A woman with shaved and painted brows could literally change her expression to match the prevailing mood. If a melancholic look was in fashion, she could paint on worried brows. If a serene look was desired, she could paint on distant hills. Her very emotions became a cosmetic choice, dictated by fashion rather than her inner state. It was the ultimate form of emotional masking. You look at yourself in the mirror. White face, black teeth, and now these thin, dark, unnatural arches floating high on your forehead. You try to raise your eyebrows in surprise, but only the skin underneath moves. The painted lines remain static, serene, unchanging. Your ability to express surprise, to frown in concentration, to show emotion through your brows, has been shaved away and painted over. You are beautiful, you are fashionable, and you are becoming harder and harder to read. The final piece of the elaborate construction is your hair. Having been plucked and shaved at the forehead, the remaining length is now treated as a sculptural material, a testament to your family status and your own feminine virtue. Long, lustrous black hair has always been a cornerstone of beauty, but in your world, it cannot simply be left to hang loose. It must be tamed, shaped, and burdened with symbolic weight. The daily hair styling session is a long and complex ordeal. You sit on a stool for what can be over an hour, your head tilted this way and that, while two maids work on you. They begin by combing your hair, which is nearly floor length, with fine-toothed wooden combs to make it smooth and shiny. They apply a pomade made from wood shavings soaked in water, a substance called planing water. It gives the hair a stiff, slightly sticky quality, making it easier to shape. Your hair is then divided into sections and woven into intricate braids, which are then coiled, looped, and pinned into a towering, complex structure on top of your head. This is the Yunjia Yunji, or cloud-like coiffure. The goal is to create a style that is both voluminous and seemingly weightless, like a bank of clouds. Of course, the reality is anything but weightless. To achieve the desired volume and shape, the maids use a variety of aids. Pads made of horsehair, called jiaguanjiaji, are placed inside the coils to bulk them out. Wires are sometimes used to create dramatic, gravity-defying loops and wings. Your own hair becomes a mere covering for this elaborate internal scaffolding. Once the basic shape is achieved, the decoration begins. This is where your family's wealth is put on full display. An arsenal of hairpins, combs, and ornaments is brought out. Long, sharp pins, called zenzhen, made of gold, silver, or carved jade, are thrust into the coils to secure them. More elaborate ornaments, known as chaitai, which are like two prongs and are added. Then come the bai ego buyao, which literally translates to shake with steps. These are dangling hairpins with pendants of pearls, jade, or tiny golden leaves that are designed to tremble and catch the light as you move your head. Your head becomes a glittering, heavy treasure chest. The maids work carefully, placing each piece for maximum effect. A golden phoenix with a pearl in its beak is positioned on one side. A spray of silver flowers with jade pistils is placed on the other. A fine, decorative comb is inserted at the back. By the time they are finished, your head feels incredibly heavy. The sheer weight of the metal and stone pulls at your scalp and strains your neck muscles. This is the mainstream history of aristocratic hairstyling. It was a direct and overt display of wealth. Only a high-status woman could afford such precious ornaments, and only a woman who did no manual labor could possibly go about her day with such a precarious and burdensome hairstyle. A lesser-known, and rather painful, aspect of these styles was the tension. To keep the heavy structure secure, the hair had to be pulled incredibly tight. This constant tension on the scalp could lead to chronic headaches and, over time, a condition we now call traction alopecia hair loss, caused by persistent pulling. Many aristocratic women, despite being famed for their beautiful hairstyles, suffered from receding hairlines beyond the plucked areas and thinning hair in their later years. Historians often discuss the dual symbolism of these hairstyles. On one hand, they were a mark of high status and beauty. On the other, they were another form of physical restraint. It's impossible to move quickly or impulsively with a towering, jingling hairdo. You must hold your head perfectly still and upright. Your movements become slow, deliberate, and graceful, not out of choice, but out of necessity. It forces you to adopt the serene, dignified posture of a lady. Like the bound feet, the heavy hairstyle dictates your physical behavior. You look at your reflection. The woman staring back is an impressive sight. Her face is a perfect, stylized mask. Her hair is a shimmering, cloud-like sculpture. She looks regal, powerful, and inhumanly beautiful. But you feel the dull ache in your neck. You feel the pulling at your scalp. You feel the weight of the golden jade pressing down on you. It is the weight of your family as expectations, the weight of your culture's ideals, the weight of your own beauty. You are no longer a person, you are a carefully assembled monument. And a monument is not meant to move. You are now complete. The product is finished, polished, and ready for the market. And the market, for a young woman of your station, is marriage. All the years of pain, all the rituals of transformation, have been leading to this. You are now a commodity of the highest value, and your family is ready to make a very advantageous trade. The matchmakers begin to arrive more frequently. They are sharp-eyed, professional women who act as the brokers in these complex social and financial transactions. They scrutinize you from head to toe, their gaze missing nothing. They are not looking at you, the person. They are assessing an asset. They walk around you, evaluating your presentation. They praise the whiteness of your skin, the elegant arch of your painted brows, the fashionable blackness of your teeth. They asked to see you walk, and you perform your swaying lotus gait for them. A few delicate, tottering steps across the room, leaning on your maid for support. They nod in approval. The gait of a true lady, one proclaims. Then comes the most important part of the inspection. One of the matchmakers, a woman with a reputation for being particularly thorough, asks to see your feet. This is the ultimate test. Your mother carefully removes your tiny, embroidered silk shoe. The matchmaker does not touch your foot, which would be improper. She simply looks. She assesses the shape, the curve, the extreme smallness. She might even measure it with a silk ribbon. An excellent silver lily, she declares, barely 4 inches. The family will be very pleased. You feel a strange sense of detachment, as if they are discussing a prize-winning pig or a valuable vase. Your body, which has been the source of so much pain and effort, is now being appraised like an object for sale. Your worth is not in your thoughts, your kindness, or your skills with the zither. Your worth is calculated in inches of feet and shades of skin. This is the brutal, core reality of the system. A woman was an article of commerce, and her beauty was her price tag. Matchmakers would bring back not just a verbal report, but often an impression of the foot, A bizarre, lesser-known practice was for the prospective groom's family to request one of the girl's shoes. The shoe itself would be inspected and admired, a tangible symbol of her beauty and refinement. Sometimes, they would even drink wine from it, a ritual that highlights the intense fetishization surrounding the bound foot. Soon, a suitable match is found. A prominent family in a neighboring province. The negotiations are complex, involving discussions of dowry, status, and astrological compatibility. But at the heart of the negotiation is you, or rather, the perfect object you have become. Your beauty is a cheap bargaining chip for your family, securing them a powerful alliance. The historical debate around this is charged. Some historians argue that women were essentially powerless pawns in these marital chess games, their lives dictated entirely by their male relatives. Others argue that women, particularly mothers and grandmothers, wielded significant informal power within the family. They were the guardians of the beauty standards, the managers of the matchmaking process, and they often had a strong say in which match was accepted. It wasn't a rejection of the patriarchy, but a navigation of it. You are living this navigation. Your mother and grandmother have been the architects of your transformation and are now the chief strategists of your marriage contract. They have invested in you, and now they are cashing in that investment for the good of the clan. The engagement is announced. You have never met your future husband. You have only seen a portrait, as he has seen of you. Your marriage is not a union of two people. It is a merger of two families. You are the beautifully wrapped package that seals the deal. You sit in your room, surrounded by the beautiful new clothes and jewelry that are part of your dowry. You have achieved everything that was expected of you. You are a success story. You have endured the pain, mastered the rituals, and become the ideal. You are about to secure your future and bring honor to your family. So why do you feel so empty? You look at your reflection, the perfect, beautiful stranger in the bronze mirror, and you wonder if there is anything left of the little girl who once ran free in the garden. You were told that this transformation would make you valuable. You just didn't realize it meant you would be sold. Your wedding day arrives. A flurry of red silk, firecrackers, then elaborate ceremony. You are sealed in a sedan chair, a prisoner in a moving, gilded box, and carried to your new home. You are no longer a daughter of the House of Wei. You are now the wife of a son of the House of Chen. Your identity has been transferred along with your dowry. Your new home is larger and more opulent than the one you grew up in, but the structure is hauntingly familiar, a labyrinth of courtyards, pavilions, and corridors, all governed by the same unspoken rules. You have simply been moved from one gilded cage to another. The initial days are a blur of introductions and observations. You are under the intense scrutiny of your new mother-in-law, a formidable woman who inspects you with an even more critical eye than your own mother ever did. Your performance as a perfect wife begins. It is now that you fully comprehend the profound physical helplessness that has been engineered into you. Your life is a constant, quiet struggle against the limitations of your own body. Waking up is a challenge. You cannot simply spring out of bed. You must sit up, carefully swing your legs over the side, and wait for a moment before attempting to stand on your painful, unsteady feet. You are completely dependent on your personal maids for the simplest tasks. They dress you, they style your heavy hair, they fetch anything that is more than a few feet away. One morning, you trip on a slightly raised floorboard while walking to your dressing table. It's a small stumble that an ordinary person wouldn't even notice. For you, it's a catastrophe. You lose your balance completely. Your narrow, unstable feet unable to correct your posture. You fall, landing in an undignified heap on the floor, your heavy hairpins scattering, your elaborate hairdo coming undone. Your maids rush to help you up, their faces a mixture of pity and alarm. You are not hurt, but you are deeply, profoundly humiliated. Your own body has betrayed you. This is the daily reality that the poetry and romanticism of the Lotus Gate completely ignores. The graceful sway was, in fact, a constant battle against gravity The helplessness was not a charming affectation, it was a genuine disability. You learn about the hidden infrastructure that supports the lives of women like you. A lesser-known architectural feature in some wealthy homes was the corridor rail. These were smooth, polished wooden rails installed along the walls of the long corridors in the women's quarters, placed at the perfect height for a woman to brace herself as she walked. They were a subtle, built-in acknowledgement of the fact that the mistresses of the house could not walk unassisted. Your new home has them, and you quickly learn to trail your hand along them as you move from room to room. The historical debate here touches on the concept of perceived versus actual disability. In your society, your condition is not seen as a disability. It is the hallmark of high status and femininity. You are not crippled, you are refined. The pain and immobility are reframed as virtues. Yet, from a modern medical perspective, what was done to you is a deliberate, permanent, crippling disfigurement. The question scholars grapple with is how a society can collectively agree to define a disability as a desirable aesthetic. It speaks to the immense power of culture to shape our perception of the body. Your days are filled with prescribed, sedentary activities. You embroider, you paint, you practice calligraphy, you receive visitors, sitting perfectly still, a serene smile on your white, lidded face. You are praised for your quiet dignity and your perfect poise. No one sees the chronic pain in your feet, the ache in your neck from your heavy hair, the lead-induced fog in your mind, or the constant, low-level humiliation of your physical dependence. You have become a living work of art, a symbol of your husband's status and wealth. You are his most precious possession, and like any precious possession, you are kept safe, protected, and locked away. You are a prisoner in the beautiful clothes, the beautiful rooms, and the beautiful, broken body that they have created for you. Years fold into one another, each one a soft echo of the last. You have mastered the art of being a wife, a daughter-in-law, and eventually, the mother. You have your own children now. You watch your sons grow, their worlds expanding with each passing year, their feet strong and free to carry them into the outer world of men. And then you have a daughter. As you hold her in your arms, a tiny, perfect, wriggling creature, a cold dread begins to seep into your heart. It is a feeling you haven't experienced with such intensity since you were a child, waiting for the auspicious day. You look at her tiny, perfect feet with their 10 perfect toes. You know what is coming. Your mother-in-law begins to speak of it when your daughter is just 4 years old. We must start thinking about her feet, she says, her tone matter of fact. We cannot wait too long. Her arch will set. It is the exact same phrase your own aunt used a lifetime ago. The cycle is preparing to begin anew. You are now the mother. You are the one who must choose the auspicious day. You are the one who must prepare the bandages and the herbs. You are the one who must hold your daughter's foot and break the bones. A conflict rages within you. It's a quiet, internal war fought in the silent moments of the night as you watch your daughter sleep. One part of you, the part that has been conditioned by a lifetime of this culture, knows that it is your duty. It is a mother's sacred, terrible responsibility to give your daughter unbound. Big feet would be to condemn her to a life of ridicule, to ruin her marriage prospects, to cast a shadow of shame over the entire family. It would be a profound act of maternal negligence. To fail in this would be to fail her. But another part of you, the part that still remembers the white-hot agony, the feverish nights, the chronic, unending ache that lives in your own feet to this day, that part of you rebels. The thought of inflicting that same lifetime of pain on your own child, of hearing her scream as you break her toes, is unbearable. You look at her as she takes her first clumsy, toddling steps across the room, and the thought of taking that freedom away from her feels like a sin. This is the paradox that countless women in your position faced. They were both the victims of the system and its primary enforcers. They were the gatekeepers of the very tradition that had crippled them. It was a cycle of trauma, passed down from mother to daughter under the guise of love and duty. You try to delay. You say she is too sickly. Too small. You say the next month's auspicious days are not favorable. Your mother-in-law grows impatient. It is for her own good. She insists. Do you want her to be a laughingstock? Do you want her to marry a peasant? Her words are sharp, and they are effective. They prey on your deepest fears for your daughter's future. The bizarre, lesser-known aspect of this tradition is the concept of fated pain. Some believed that the pain of foot binding was a necessary suffering that would pay off a karmic debt, ensuring the girl a smoother, less painful life in other aspects, such as childbirth. The agony was seen as a spiritual transaction, a sacrifice made to appease the gods and secure good fortune. It was a powerful psychological justification for an act of brutality. The historical debate on this is deeply compelling. Did women truly believe these justifications? Or were they elaborate rationalizations to cope with the cognitive dissonance of harming their own children? Some scholars argue that these beliefs were deeply held and provided genuine comfort, reframing a cruel act as a spiritual necessity. Others argue that they were post hoc justifications, a way for a patriarchal culture to make women complicit in their own oppression and the oppression of their daughters. There is likely truth in both perspectives. The day comes when you can delay no longer. Your mother-in-law has made the decision. You are in the small, secluded room. Your daughter is crying, not because she knows what is coming, but because she is frightened by the solemn atmosphere. She is sitting on the low stool. It is your turn to sit before her. The maid hands you the long, black cotton bandage. You look at your own mother-in-law. Her face is turned mask of tradition. You look at your own hands, the hands that must now become instruments of pain, and you look at your daughter's small, trusting face, her eyes filled with tears. You are trapped in a paradox of love and cruelty, a prisoner of a tradition that demands you break your child's body to save her future. The praise you received for your own beauty now feels like a curse, a debt that you must repay by inflicting the same suffering on the next generation. But you don't do it. In that small, dim room, with the scent of herbs and fear in the air, something inside you breaks. Not a bone, but a chain of tradition, of duty, of silent, inherited pain that has stretched back for generations. You look at your daughter's terrified face, and you see yourself. You feel the ghost of that long-ago agony in your own feet, a constant, dull throb that has been your companion for decades. You drop the bandage. No, you say. The word is quiet, barely a whisper. But, in the silence of the room, it rings like a temple bell. Your mother-in-law gasps, her face a mask of disbelief, which quickly hardens into fury. What did you say? Have you lost your mind? I will not do it. You repeat, your voice gaining a sliver of strength. You pull your weeping daughter into your arms, shielding her with your body. I will not break her. The confrontation is monumental. It is not just you against your mother-in-law. It is you against your ancestors, against your culture, against the entire weight of what is considered right and proper. Your mother-in-law unleashes a torrent of accusations. You are being selfish. You are a bad mother. You are bringing disgrace upon the house of Chen. You are condemning your daughter to a life of shame. But as she speaks, a strange thing happens. Her words, which would have terrified you a month ago, now seem hollow. The logic that has governed your entire life suddenly appears for what it is, a collective delusion. A beautiful, terrible, and ultimately absurd lie. News of your rebellion spreads through the women's quarters like a contagion. The aunts, their cousins, the maids, they watch you with a mixture of horror and a secret, forbidden flicker of admiration. You have done the unthinkable. You have said no. Your husband is called. He is a man you have lived with for years but barely know. He has always treated you as a beautiful, decorative object. Now, for the first time, he is forced to see you as a person with a will of her own. He is angry, confused. His authority, and the authority of his mother, has been challenged. This is the moment where your story diverges from the countless others, because outside the walls of your courtyard, the world is beginning to change. It is the late 19th century. Foreign ideas are trickling into the empire. Whispers of natural feet societies, promoted by missionaries and Chinese intellectuals, have begun to circulate. They argue that foot binding is a barbaric practice that weakens the nation, producing weak mothers who cannot raise strong sons. This is a crucial historical point. The end of foot binding was not solely a feminist or humanitarian victory. Its end was largely driven by a new wave of Chinese nationalism. The practice came to be seen as a symbol of the nation's backwardness and weakness in the face of a technologically superior West. Unbinding the feet became a patriotic act. A lesser-known aspect of this movement was the creation of anti-foot binding pledges, where families would sign contracts promising not to bind their daughters' feet and to only allow their sons to marry women with natural feet. It was a grassroots movement that attacked the practice at its root, the marriage market. Your husband, a man involved in trade, has heard these new ideas. He has seen the foreigners in the coastal cities. He is torn between the old ways, represented by his mother, and the new, pragmatic ideas that speak of national strength. The academic debate here is fascinating. Did this nationalist argument simply replace one form of control over women's bodies with another instead of being symbols of family prestige? Were women's bodies now being repurposed as symbols of national strength? It's argued that women themselves were still not the primary agents of their own liberation. Their bodies were simply being redefined to serve a different patriarchal agenda, that of the nation-state. For you, the high-minded political debates are irrelevant. Your revolution is personal. It is about your daughter and the pain you refuse to pass on. The standoff in your family lasts for weeks. It is a cold war fought with silent meals, undiverted gazes. But your quiet, stubborn refusal, combined with the changing winds of the outside world, eventually begins to wear down the opposition. Your husband, seeing the practical advantages of aligning with the modern thinkers, finally, reluctantly, sides with you. He commands his mother to let the matter drop. You have won. It is a victory that leaves you isolated and exhausted, but it is a victory nonetheless. Your daughter will grow up with strong, healthy feet. She will be able to run and jump and walk wherever she pleases. She may face ridicule. She may have a harder time finding a husband from a conservative family, but she will be free in a way you have never been. You have broken the cycle. You have unbound the future. The years that follow your small, quiet revolution are a strange mixture of peace and dissonance. Your daughter grows, then her feet remain unbound. You watch with a fierce, protective joy as she runs through the courtyards, her steps loud and firm on the stone pavers. She climbs the old plum tree you once only stared at. She is a whirlwind of energy, a creature of motion in a house built for stillness. Her natural-footed presence is a constant, low-level scandal in the women's quarters. Your mother-in-law never forgives you, treating you with a cold, formal distance for the rest of her days. Your sisters-in-law, who all have bound feet and have bound their own daughters, look at your child with a mixture of pity and resentment. They whisper that she is wild, common, like a servant's child. You, in turn, look at their daughters, your nieces, as they undergo the brutal transformation you escaped for your child. You see them learning the tottering lotus gait, their faces pale with pain. The old feeling of normalcy is gone. You can no longer see it as a necessary rite of passage. You now see it for what it is, a mutilation. The beauty has evaporated, leaving only the horror. You are living through the slow, messy death of a 1,000-year-old tradition. By the early 20th century, the Qing dynasty has fallen. The new republic officially bans foot binding, and government inspectors travel the countryside, imposing fines on families who continue the practice. What was once the pinnacle of beauty and status is now actively policed as a shameful, backward custom. This rapid reversal is a stark historical lesson in how quickly and completely social norms can be overturned by political force and cultural shifts. The honor that you and generations of women suffered for has become shame in the span of a single lifetime. The bizarre, little-known consequence of this de-binding era was the plight of adult women with bound feet. Some, caught up in the revolutionary fervor, tried to unbend their feet, but for a woman your age, whose bones had been fused in a broken position for decades, this was often impossible and incredibly painful. The muscles and tendons had atrophied completely, and binding often resulted in a floppy, useless appendage that could not support any weight at all. Many women found it was less painful and more functional to simply keep their feet bound. They were wrapped in a physical and cultural limbo, their bodies a living relic of a disgraced era. The historical debate continues to this day. Was the campaign against foot binding a true liberation? Or was it a complex event with unintended consequences, while it freed future generations? It also created a generation of women who were shamed for the very bodies that their culture had once demanded. They were living symbols of an old China that the new, modern nation was desperate to forget. Their pain was erased, and their experience was reframed as a national humiliation. You are one of those women. You watched the world change from the quiet of your courtyard. The lid powder is no longer fashionable. In fact, it's now seen as poisonous. The complex hairstyles are gone, replaced by simpler bobs. Your blackened teeth would now be considered hideous. Everything you were built to be, every painful modification you endured, has become obsolete. You sit in the garden, an old woman now. Your own feet, in their soft cloth shoes, are a constant, aching reminder of the past. Your daughter, now a grown woman, sits beside you. She is a teacher in one of the new schools for girls. Her face is bare, her expression animated. She tells you about her day, about her students, about a world that is so much bigger than the courtyards you have known. You look at her strong, capable hands, her clear eyes, and you feel a profound sense of peace. You were a bridge. You were born in one world and birthed to child into another. Your life has been a testament to the agony of the golden lily, but your legacy is the girl who was allowed to run free. You look in the mirror now, not a polished bronze one, but a new, clear glass one. You see your own face, the skin wrinkled and stained from the long-forgotten lead powder. You see the faint, shaved line where your eyebrows used to be. You see a survivor. You see the ghost in the machine, the woman who finally, after a lifetime of obedience, learned to say no. The world around you begins to soften. The sharp edges of the courtyard, the hard lines of the pavilions, they all seem to dissolve into a gentle, misty haze. The quiet hum of the fan by your bed becomes the distant sound of wind sighing through bamboo. The weight of your blanket feels like the heavy silk of an ancient robe, but it is a comforting weight now, a warmth that soothes the old aches in your feet, the memory of pain that no longer belongs to you. You can feel yourself drifting, floating gently on a current of time. The story is over, but its echoes remain, soft and faint, like whispers in a dream. The faces of the women your mother, your grandmother, your daughter blur and merge, becoming a single, timeless face of endurance. The pain you witnessed was not yours to keep. You were just a visitor, a silent observer passing through a long-forgotten room in the vast, sprawling house of history. Now, that room fades. The light from its high window dims. The scents of sandalwood and medicinal herbs give way to the simple, familiar scent of your own pillow. You are floating in that peaceful space between wakefulness and sleep, that gentle shore where thoughts unravel and become dreams. Let the current carry you. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to see, just the soft, steady rhythm of your own breathing, a quiet boat on a calm, dark sea. Rest now. The journey is done.